Ready?
Yep. Go ahead.
And you drink an Ice Mountain?
Bro, that water good, bro.
Bruh, no, dog.
What we're not going to do is start off trying to roast some
No.
more. So what's the best water then?
No.
What's the best water?
Everything except for Ice Mountain.
You lie.
Bruh.
A cold Ice Mountain,
Bruh,
that's good. And you can see the little bubbles in it, too.
why does your water have bubbles in it? It's water. It's not Sprite. It's not.
I don't want to hear it. That the Santi, that's some nasty water.
That's
Deer Park,
nasty. Deer Park is. I don't want to say
Ice
that.
Mountain is the best water out here. It's
Anyway,
better than
let's just go on and do it, and you take a sip. All right, so we are here with the legendary Bernard Terry.
Don't start.
You know, as he rises to fame.
I'm just trying to be like you,
We
man.
honored
Nah,
that.
you
Look,
the one.
hey man, we in our label. You
This
know,
is
we in
your
all,
show.
We don't all got Jazz at the Bistro concerts and stuff
No,
like that.
no.
You
This
know
is
what I
your
mean?
show. No.
So we in here with the man. So you are, of course, a bassist.
Yes,
Yeah, is that it?
that's it.
That's it.
Just leave it at that.
No flauts, no
Nope.
guitars, no.
No. I'm a bassist. Because it's a lot to electric and upright and key bass. So you can.
Oh, you
add
do
it
key
in.
bass too now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. What board do you use for key bass?
Huh?
What board do you use for key bass?
Rolling.
That's my man.
Rolling the best keyboard thing. I'm about to get you sponsored. Rolling is the best thing out here.
Hey, Doc. I'm just saying. I'm a Rolling fan, dog.
Yeah.
So what got you started in playing bass? Or playing music, anyway?
Playing music. Not playing bass, playing music. Well, it's always been weird, man. Majority of my family, they always played a musical instrument.
Okay.
So, started with my grandma. She played the piano and sang. My great aunt, she sang. Great uncle, he played in the United States Navy band,
Okay.
jazz band.
That's what's up.
And yeah, man, everybody played, and I was like, I want to play music too.
Gotta keep it.
You got to keep
alive.
it going, man. And plus it's like it's something to just being able to like experience like making sounds.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing I love to do.
That's the nature. Yeah.
That's the nature of it.
So how did you choose the bass then, or did the bass choose you?
Really, the bass chose me because my dad plays bass,
You right?
and I was like always looking at it. It's gold plated, so it's like, man, that looks nice. I'm gonna touch it one day, and one string at a time.
I'm gonna touch it.
I'm gonna touch it one day. It's gonna get in my hands one day.
I'm so weak. And so now you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm doing it, man.
So we of course met in high school.
Yeah.
So what happened before then? Did you do any lessons? I'm pretty sure your dad showed you a few things. But...
My dad showed me 3 notes.
Oh, okay. So you
That was it.
so you was yeah.
After
he
that,
kind of threw you into the fire.
Yeah, and then it also helped that started to play trumpet in middle school,
Okay.
and then
That's
baritone, and then tuba, and then I was like, tuba's getting boring because there's only so much. There's a lot you can do on tuba, no offense, but it's like at the end of the day, you're like, that bass is just something to it.
It's different, yeah.
Like
Not all over it is the bass.
That's it, man. And like, remember, high school, the band director used to go, make it sound like a string bass. I'm playing tuba. If I want to play string bass and get that string bass sound, I'm gonna start playing string bass. Let me get the bass. That's really where it started.
You just you have to make an executive decision. So when did you start playing in church? Because I know you did that for a minute.
Let me see, 10, 11?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like? Because I know I've met him a few times, but I've heard the stories of Terry McDonald, and
That's legendary.
yeah. So what was that like being up under him? For a little minute?
It was the most important thing I ever learned in life from them was the feel. It doesn't matter what notes you play, because any note can sound good. It's that feel. So like playing with them, that was like
He had that.
I remember the first time it was like a quartet style song.
Uh-huh.
I played one note throughout that whole song. but it was gonna be the best one note.
I have one job.
One job.
I will execute
He
that
said,
one job.
you are a bass player.
Yes, sir.
I need to hear you, and I gotta feel you. So that was like the most important thing. Like when I first, like the first 2 months, I was just playing one note, maybe two, and that was it, man. But after that, it's like, okay, I'll get it down.
Okay. Well,
So,
cool.
yeah.
So you did that, and you learned a lot. I guess you learned about the told you, man, these Apple products.
We're doing so well. Right? Yeah. What happened? Just went to go update or something?
You seen it for your own eyes.
First of all, why you got 4 update things on there, Justin?
Because I don't trust updates.
You might have to put it on airplane mode.
Okay, since it saved the other video, I'm just pick up where we left off.
Did it save?
Yeah. All right. So you're playing in church.
Yes.
And so you learned a lot about feel and time. Any other life lessons that you picked up in there? Because, I mean, sometimes people sleep on what playing in church will teach you, in prep for.
Man, people sleep on. I'm just going to say this. People sleep on church musicians. Like.
Kinda.
It's not even kind of.
Kinda.
Like the for real church cats that Saturday night they're in the club. Sunday morning they up in church, and for them to memorize all the church songs from like way back in the day to now, and still have great feel, great technique. Like the biggest thing I really learned was sound,
Yeah.
because that was the one thing. Like I think as church musicians, the one thing we get criticized for the most is how loud we play.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. Yeah. But the one thing I learned from, especially Terrell, was having a good, clean sound. And also from my dad. So, like, that was, like, the biggest takeaway in working with analog systems, which I recommend everybody going back, learning analog systems before you even touch digital, because that really helped.
That'll show you how much you know for
right.
real. Putting your hands on them knobs and
touch something if you want to.
Look, not messing nothing up. So that's cool, man. So you go through that. You do high school. Like you said, you I forgot you played tuba and all that. So you definitely went through that, and you get into. Well, you took some time off before you went to college, didn't you?
No, I went straight into it.
Okay, so you go straight in, and I remember those years. So. So, I know it wasn't a lot of help in high school, but you got some introduction to playing upright. But in college, is when game time starts.
Yeah.
So, what was that whole experience like for you? Kind of getting in and really diving into the world of the upright.
I did not want to play upright. Like the first year, I remember like that first semester. After I got them playing like electric piano, I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. Get to learn a whole bunch of electric stuff. Zell, one of the best like bass professors.
Bass players, period. Dog.
Like, yeah. Like top 10 in my book. Top 10. Like this dude, up there. He literally went, all right, switch to upright. Huh? You want me to do what? And I remember the first time I got on upright, played it all wrong, man. But like, man, it was one of the funniest things in the world, because it's like that transcribing.
Just the playing alone, man.
Trying to get a great sound out of the bass. We spent months. Basically, that whole first year was trying to get a great sound out of the bass.
This, man, I hope something can change where we can catch some of these young kids, man, early, bruh, because I know when I came in, there was a lot of stuff that I was doing wrong too. Like I started college at 17, 17 going to 18,
right?
And been playing piano so I thought all my life. And when Pops was like, "Oh, you're playing the piano wrong," and I'm like, "What?"
Right.
But then he broke it down. I was like, "Oh,
yeah, that takes."
And it's like, man, like you spend first semester, almost that first year, just on sound alone, I'm like,
Right.
bro, if you imagine, you know what I mean, if you had some of that stuff worked out coming in there with them cats, shameless plug, SIUE is a great place to go to learn your musical craft. I'll tell you, if you, man,
It's the funniest thing though, man. I watch like it's crazy though because you look at like how many different techniques there are,
yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
oh, so
And
my
I-
technique don't work.
But no, and I do recommend that everybody take some amount of classical lessons, whether it's a semester, a couple months, or whatever, or 1 year, dog. Because that chick, Dr. Kim, bro, I was like, what in the world? Like from not no keyboard, you know what I mean, not no synth, a straight up acoustic piano. You know what I mean? Even stuff that you learn on upright, like that. You know what I mean? Zeb was talking about just different ways to, you know, pluck the string with how much of the finger. It's just like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it really does change. Like ain't no volume knob, ain't no timbre knob. Like, and just from a simple technique point, all the sound can change. So that stuff, man, that stuff is huge. So, when did you start gigging? Did it start during your college time, or kind of after
that
you?
started before.
Before, okay,
Because before it used to be like once, twice a month.
okay. What kind of music?
Quartet.
Okay,
Shout out to the church. And then it slowly worked itself into like R&B,
okay.
then jazz, polka music, classical music.
Does use upright?
That tuba. That's
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes. So it's
We can use it all.
strange. It's a strange,
I'm just trying to picture you play.
bro. That and then like singing in choirs and stuff, man. So it was.
So you're a liar.
Huh?
I asked you if you did anything else. You done sang, played tuba, Trump. Y'all done heard him.
I said,
Now he's
he
singing,
said, "What do I do right now? What do I do? I play
rapping, and playing nose flute. And no, I'm joking.
one step at a time.
I'm hollering. Okay,
Whatever pays.
so recently you've become the man in St. Louis for upright.
Yeah.
You know, where it's out in the street. I didn't say it. I mean, I just said it now, but I didn't start it.
These are new things to me.
I'm hollering. The article said top call. So so what got you to that point?
Man, for real, it's number one being hungry, because the one thing that if you like the jazz books and historians, they always go, jazz musicians are always broke. Musicians are always broke. And I was like, yeah, nah, I don't want to be broke.
Don't, man.
I'm not gonna be that cat.
I tell you, it's capable. You have to be hungry. You just got to put the work in.
So
you got to.
That was the most important thing. So like sitting there practicing, learning tunes, going to jam sessions. That's the key. Jam sessions.
Networking.
Yep. That's all it is. Because to me, man, it's like what I learned in music is everything's just like any other business.
Yeah.
If you're in medical profession, you still got to take care of business. If you're in the stock market, you still got to take care of business. So you got to take care of instrument on the bass. So having a great sound, learning tunes, trying to be the best person on the bandstand, which means like just have a great attitude, be a good like teamwork, team leader, team player, and then go from there, man. And that's really how it came to be.
Bruh, and even that last part that you was talking about, like, you talked about trying to be the best person on stage, but you didn't mention nothing about playing. And so many people have an issue with not having their character in check. You know what I mean? That's a huge part. You know what I mean?
I can't tell you how many cast loose gigs.
Be punctual, dress appropriately. You know what I mean? Be a cool dude to be around. Like, it's music, man. So before we get to some other stuff, let me ask you this, because I know I've been in a lot of situations where I've had to call people, or people ask me, do you know anybody looking for gigs, or anybody that's trying to, can you help me find this person or this person? So as a bass player, what is, I don't want to necessarily use the word competition, but what's the competition like as a bass player? I know, of course, drummers. You can find drummers around every corner. You know, so what is it like there? How much did you have to fight in order to, you know?
Well, luckily we're in St. Louis,
Uh-huh.
so there's there's uh there's not a lot of bass players for real.
Okay.
Like that can play upright. There's not a lot. That can play
So
electric. There's a lot, but upright is basically there's about probably 30 cats.
mm.
And so trying to figure out like who you gonna get on the gig, sometimes it's like
Now with that 30, does all 30 of them gig out like that? Though? Like play out a lot?
yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, oh yeah. It's like yeah,
Okay. So you
yeah.
still have to do some work. So does it help set you apart that you do both?
I mean yeah, it most definitely helps you to set apart. Like
Mm-hmm.
of course, like the more you learn, the more you're gonna be set apart from everybody else. But it's also like the biggest thing I learned was just like being able to be. It's sort of like there's LeBron, and then there's everybody else on the team. I'm like everybody else on the team. I'm here to do my job. And
Hey man, that's what gets you called, bro.
That's what gets you called.
That's what gets you playing the gig is what gets you called.
Yeah.
You don't want to go in there chopping out and all that because
no, man.
you either gonna be the backup to the backup or you gonna be at the house. I mean,
Not everybody can be a star.
that,
It's not
you
my
said,
job.
You said there's a LeBron and there's everybody else. Bump the starting
But
five.
you know what? Let me tell you something, man. Like the one thing I always learned is like on every gig, it's like what can I learn to do better?
Yeah.
So like I remember one time I was doing a gig with this piano player, and I showed up late. Number one, I was like, I got plenty of time to go home, get dinner, fall asleep, and try to show back up to the gig.
No, your
It
audience
didn't work.
No, sir.
It didn't work.
No, sir.
There have been times where they will call a song, and I go, I know that song. And then when they start to play, you're like, what key is that in?
That's important.
So it's just like, there's LeBron, and then there's others. And like, with the others, you got to make sure you always know as much as you can, because you're not going to know when you're going to get called to play the next play, or are you going to be able to shoot the basket in the hole?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, man. I go in with that mentality. It's like, how can I make sure I do the best I can to make sure the artist looks good?
Yeah. I mean that's our job.
That's our job,
Especially as rhythm section players, you know,
bruh.
that's the gig.
That is the number one goal. My goal is not to take over the bandstand. My goal is not to sit there and outswing everybody. I'm not going to sit there and do that. No, my goal is how can I make the person on the bill whose name is on there, how can I make sure that they don't have to worry about nothing?
They're comfortable. Yep. That's gonna get you caught.
And that's frankly, that's how it works, man.
That's
That's
good
how it works
stuff.
for me.
So, you know, as you talked about, you know, practicing and all that. I mean, you talked about a lot of what you do. So, working on your sound still, working on feel,
Working on field.
working on, you know, you read.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the most
So
important
you do electric and upright. So let's get into gig prep a little bit, right? Or I guess not even gig prep. It's more so having everything you need to do the job. So what are the basic things that you feel, you know, that you have as a gigging musician, but you feel other bass players need to have in order to be professional, you know what I mean, in the workforce?
I would say the first and foremost thing is a great attitude.
Okay.
Go in there with a great attitude. Number two, make sure you have chords that work. Make sure you have extra strings. Make sure that you actually like have the equipment that you need, like
Which is
a screwdriver, because you're never gonna know when you need to change the battery.
okay.
You're never gonna know. Like I know with the electric bass, like it's starting to get old, but sometimes the strings will lower itself, so you got to sit there, raise the strings back up. That is like, make sure you know maintenance on your own equipment. So chords, bass, amps, maintenance. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is knowing the material. So if like let's say you call me for a gig and you tell me the songs, I'm like, okay, cool. I have to listen to those tunes, not the day of, not the day before, but weeks in advance. So that's the second thing. And third thing, man, is going in there and executing.
Yeah. So in addition to that, of course, having your bass, like having your own equipment,
That's
that's
first and
mandatory.
foremost.
You talked about screwdrivers and stuff,
Maintenance.
all that gear, strings, batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another thing that most people might not think of, especially as well upright. You kind of forced to, but people not knowing much about people who may be interested in playing both.
Right.
Talk about what kind of vehicle you have to have.
Bro, let me tell you something.
Some things to avoid.
I got made fun of so much for having my first car was a Subaru Outback. I used to get clowned. I mean, the jokes went left.
I used to
and
clown
right.
him.
Boy, I mean, the jokes came in. It hurt my feelings. Some of those, I was like, dang. But let me tell you something. When you're able to fit an electric bass, a 500 watt amp, your upright bass, all the back, like usually I carry like my gear bag, and I have a separate gear bag because I leave the house and sometimes I don't have my gear bag. I always have a backup gear bag, a backup amp, backup tools, like all that was in the car. And then one day Justin was like, "Hey Bernard, can I get a ride? I just got my keyboard." Okay, cool. Put the keyboard in the car, put his amp in the car and the bag, and he still had plenty of leg room.
So
That
this is what that means. Fiats are out of the picture. Pontiacs are out of the picture.
Camaros.
Camaros are out of the picture. Any two-door vehicle is out of the picture. You need some kind of SUV, sports SUV.
Nah,
So
I brought a minivan.
he did do that. So what just to enlighten people, of course they could do their own research, but market value, what is expected to spend on, let's just say used, a decent used minivan, something with a hatchback, something that can load that stuff in and you
Right.
still have a little bit of room. What can you expect to invest in?
About 15 to 20 grand.
On something used? Or something decent used?
Something decent. Now,
Okay.
you don't want something with some high mileage because
Right.
the first thing I would always tell musicians that are looking to get a car is, number one, how much travel is this going to be your travel car for going to Nashville and back, Chicago and back, Detroit and back, or is this going to be a car that you're going to use for just locally?
Right.
Because that's where I'm at right now. Like a lot of folks know, you're going to be doing a lot of traveling, and I don't like riding in airplanes. Number one, people cough. Number two, sometimes I have to go to the bathroom, and the plane trips are like 7 hours. So I'm like, I gotta find somewhere else to do this. I have to get my own vehicle, and plus TSA. That's number three, and I don't like TSA because they like to drop people's equipment and then break their equipment, and then you're like, what happened? And then you try to take them to court, and it's like, oh, that's gonna be an expensive bill.
Well,
So,
I mean, even with that, though, that tells people who do want to travel, they invest
Right.
in some road cases. 'Cause
road
them
cases and
them joints don't be cheap.
mm-hmm.
Flight cases.
And that's the most important thing. So like with vehicles, if you're gonna be traveling, like doing like out of town gigs, minivans or hatchbacks, that's your only two options. If you're really that's it. Because I even seen trumpet players now carrying their own equipment, and sometimes they have to bring sound equipment.
Yeah.
They drive minivans now.
Yep.
So, if I was going to say get a good car, get a car that's between 15,000, 20,000. If it's a great deal with the mileage and there's no damage report done on the car, there's no damage done on the car, there's nothing scary about the car history, and it's cheaper, go for it. But most of the time, it's going to be 15,000 to 20,000.
One last question before we hop into the next segment. I know I used to, but you're a bass player, so it doesn't really take you long. You ever time or like try to get your setup time to a certain
I set up in 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I used to try to. I'm gonna have to see. I'm gonna have to like really test myself next time because I haven't done it in a minute. But I know I used to try to get it, especially for bigger stuff where I had to use like two boards and stuff like that.
Right.
I used to try to get it down to 10 minutes, and I think I did a couple of times, but I don't know where I'm at now. It's been a minute since I've tried it.
Let me tell you, the one thing I learned about playing bass, and the one thing about like when artists call me to do things, or I'm on the road, I always know that as a bass player, I'm the fastest one that can set up.
Well, duh. You're the bass.
The bass player.
You're the bass player.
So the one thing that I always try to do is try to make sure the sound's great for everybody else. Because to me, it's not hard to run sound for bass. Now, unless somebody, all right, Justin, we're gonna fight.
Okay, one more.
Okay, come on. I think it says storage full. All right, Justin, this is strike two, man.
You seen it with your own eyes?
I have. How much gigabytes do you have?
Not a lot. 32.
Okay, that's why. Them videos on the iPad take up so much, man. This is good.
Bro, you so nasty.
What?
Drinking the dog on ice.
But that ice mountain do something special to your body.
I don't like the way you just said that. Okay, what did you say is most important to it? Oh, making sure the sound is great for everybody.
Making sure the sound's great for everybody. Yeah. So you go ahead and ask that question again.
Okay. So I want to ask you this before we move on to the next segment. So I know I used to, but have you ever tried to like time yourself and see how long it takes you to set up for a gig?
Yes.
So what's your goal? I guess
10 seconds.
10 seconds. What's your real goal?
About, I would say a minute. Because my biggest thing as a bass player, all we got to do is just plug it in. Everything's taken care of. My biggest issue is the sound for everybody else. So the thing that takes the most time, in my opinion, is drums and then keyboards. Usually the mics don't take that long. If somebody knows what they're doing, the mics don't take that long for the vocals.
Yeah.
But I try to focus on drums, keyboards, vocalists. Bass is last, in my opinion, because that's the easiest thing. They're going like, if I'm playing upright and let's say the room fits about 150 people, I know that if the sound man messes up, I know that my sound can carry.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that. If it's like a room of like 1,000 people, then I start to get a little concerned because I'm like, okay, what's the sound man doing? But you want to try to be buddies with the sound man. Make sure everybody else is good. Bass, 3 minutes tops. 3 minutes.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had some studio experience. You've had some touring experience as well. So what were those two things like for you?
It was annoying.
What happened?
It was annoying. They were the biggest thing, man, is when you wake up in the morning and then you're like, man, this is gonna be a great day, and then you just get roasted constantly on the tour. That is the worst.
So you mad because you ain't got no roasting chops?
No, I don't. Do you need to delete a video or something? Yeah,
I'll just edit it from there.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. You positive?
Yeah.
The camera's a good angle.
It shows you, so it's fine.
Why it needs to show you too?
It's okay.
Okay. Are you sure it's filming right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and answer the touring question.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll start there. Okay. So moving on to the next segment, you've had some touring experience, but also some studio experience. So what were those two things like for you?
I hated the touring experience, and I also hate studio experience.
Because
The whole time, I'm getting roasted sun up to sundown.
So you gotta develop some roasting chops.
I have to develop something.
you gotta go back and watch Wild Knot.
It was pretty bad. I remember one time we were on the plane going to Dallas, and I had a bag of chicken nuggets and fries because I was like, man, I get hungry once again. The airplane food is not that good.
It's not.
That's a joke, but but man, I was in there, pulled out the bag, and got flamed like the whole day. Like even when we were playing, there was a talkback mic, and everybody's like, "Hey, y'all remember the chicken?"
Hey, Doc.
that talkback mic.
Talkback mic's a legendary, Doc. It's a vital piece of stage equipment.
Man.
So what about the actual playing experience, the actual, traveling and all of that?
It was an experience of a lifetime. It was like, first of all, the first thing that I learned was how much of a schedule, like you have to stay on schedule. Like if you're a minute off for one thing, you're going to be a minute off the whole day. So, man, that was the most important thing I learned. The second most important thing I learned was making sure that you don't forget anything. I left my screwdriver. And I had to change the battery. Usually I change the batteries every 2 shows because I like to flip the switches and stuff, and I don't want nothing to happen. So I left my screwdriver, so I had to go and get a screwdriver, and that took time off on tour. So I had to miss some things because I had to go get a screwdriver. The third thing, man, and this is what I tell everybody is make sure you know all the material.
Absolutely.
Because an artist would choose a song that you would go, okay, they're just gonna do the new songs and a few of the popular old ones. The artist might choose a song that's old, people have heard it, but a lot of folks don't remember it, so they try to pull it back out, and you're like, huh? This? I didn't learn it. So you gotta learn it real quick.
You gotta know it all.
Make sure you know every artist's song.
So with both of those things, both the touring and the studio, what did you learn about the business side and like contracts and all that kind of stuff?
Make sure you read.
Yeah.
Make sure that is the most important thing. Reading. Because there was a few contracts where I signed it and I would have not got paid at all.
Wow.
Like, at all. It just would have been a free college credit.
Oh, no.
Like, bro, I was like, no. I got to get paid for something. So that is the one thing I learned. And also the other thing I learned about studio. So touring and studio, people like to separate them. But to me, they're the same.
In what way?
I think about touring as you just bring the studio to just different stages.
Okay.
That's the way I think about it. Because with studio work, you're in there, you're tracking for a long time. I don't like tracking at all. I don't like redoing stuff 8, 9 times. I try to get down once. So, like, you're trying to do all this stuff. You're trying to make sure you have the best sound quality as possible. You're trying to make sure you have the best product as possible. So, with those key points, I want to bring that on stage. Because a lot of times with studio sound, you have clear, precise sound. On stage, you have the drums are loud on one end, and the keyboards are the highs of the keyboard are way too much.
So you basically try to make it the same experience. You want to deliver quality product the first time, whether in the studio or on the road. I get that a lot, and that's how, especially nowadays, how I tell a lot of church bands or church musicians, like you're basically in a live recording situation. You know what I mean? Like, especially the way these churches are streaming now, like you got one shot. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily to scare anybody, but it's just another incentive to make sure your craft is A game. You know what I mean? You want to do your best to have a quality show, good feel, good time, know your material.
Goes back to the studio.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing too is 9 out of 10 times the studio work, when people think of studio work, they think of tedious. You got to be serious the whole time. You got to you got to straighten up, fly right when you in there, man. You got to be tough. And it's like, man, if you ain't been in the studio with me or Justin, cracking jokes the whole time.
Bruh, it should be fun, man.
Relaxed. And people should be feeling like, I think of like energy.
You want to invite those people to that experience, man. Yeah, that stuff is huge.
That is the most important thing. And I was like, and that's why I say, to me, touring and studio work is the same, because at the end of the day, majority of the time with touring, somebody's always recording you.
Yeah,
with their cell phones, or they might be doing a live video recording.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, you still gotta make sure you play the right notes.
No overdubs.
You still gotta make sure you do all the right things, man. So it's the same. You're implementing the same thing. So that's why I always go into the mindset of, no matter if it's touring or studio work, number one, having fun. Number two, make sure I got the material down. Number three, execute.
Man, so you shared a lot of your own experiences, a lot of wisdom, and what you did just from growing up, what you learned, gear, prep. Is there any other thing that you would tell somebody who wants to know about what it's like as a musician or up and coming bassist, or whatever, any other words of advice that you would share?
I got a lot. The first thing is learn your bass. A lot of basses are different, but learn the bass that you like and listen to different bass players. Like, I know, like in St. Louis and a little bit around here, it's like that Victor Wooten style.
Okay.
You go up north to Detroit, it's almost like the Marcus Miller style. So there's different type of styles of playing bass. There's different ways of having a bass sound, like different tones and stuff. But as a bass player, if you're learning bass, the most important thing you want to do, just make sure you get the sound you want to hear. That's the most important thing, because whatever you hear in your ears as a bass player, not going to be the same as Jockel's stories.
Right.
Because even though I like Jockel's bass playing, sometimes I never liked the way the bass sounded. I was like, I want to hear like a thump, Sometimes listening to Louis Johnson, I was like, I don't want to hear a thump. I want to hear like a clear, nice, clear sound. So it's like,
pulling from other people to develop
learn
your sound,
from as much people, like transcribe as much people as possible. Know your scales. Learn how to read. That is the biggest issue right now. It's like there's not a lot of bass players that can read, so you miss out on a lot of gigs. So like, once again, going back to the upright bass, when you go like, how did you get to be like one of the top called cats in town? It's like, I read. That helped me a lot. Because there was a lot of gigs where folks will call me and they go, hey, do you read? Yes, I can read. Okay, I need you to do this gig last minute. Boom, give me the book. The show starts in 30 minutes and you got to play perfectly or close to it.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah, man. So that's
you heard it from Bernard Terry, man. Well, let's play a tune, man.
Yeah, man. I'm just trying to be like you. You call me on a Monday.